Democrats turn their attention to electing a candidate they think can beat former President Donald Trump.
Here to walk us through that process is Byrnes, senior editor with The Hill. Jesse, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Great to be with you.
Now, we know President Biden is backing Vice President Kamala Harris, but she needs to win the delegates to become the candidate. So how will that work?
Well, to be the Democratic nominee, the nominee will need to lock in around 2,000 delegates. It's 1,968 delegates officially. Kamala Harris is well on her way to locking that in. She's about a quarter to a third of the way there. And for Harris, it's very important these first hours after Biden has stepped aside. She has really raced to shore up support among congressional Democrats, among governors across the country, among key leaders in the party who not only have sway when it comes to the convention in 4 weeks from today, where she or someone else will be formally nominated to be the party's standard bearer, but she has really shown her ability to lock in that support and send a message to donors in the party that they should kind of get that spigot flowing again when it comes to donations in order for the Democrats to mount an aggressive general election campaign.
And we do want to touch on this process in a few moments. But first, let's talk about Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. He's indicating that replacing Joe Biden with another candidate right now could lead to legal challenges. How likely do you think something like that is?
Well, I think we're going to see some type of challenges. It remains to be seen exactly which states there might be an issue. Of course, you can replace a candidate on the ballot, but different states have different rules surrounding that. And in President Biden's letter that was released yesterday, he didn't give a formal reason for why he is stepping aside from the ticket. And so certain states require a specific reason. You can replace some candidates for political reasons, others for physical reasons. And so it remains to be seen. We'll see later this week when Biden actually goes on camera and discloses, the exact rationale. But I do expect some type of a legal battle in at least some states because Republicans are trying to scrap wherever they can for votes, and only a handful of states can really determine the outcome of this election. As we remember, just going back the last couple of cycles, where just a few states really determined who won the election.
Now, a lot of people have been talking about the virtual roll call that Democratic delegates are expected to have early next month, ahead of the convention even happening in mid-August. So talk to us about what that is and how might this big shakeup change what was expected to happen on that virtual roll call?
Well, it certainly has been a controversial move on the part of the DNC to have this roll call. And essentially, they were planning to hold a virtual voting process before the convention starts in Chicago in mid-August. And they were planning to have delegates across the country vote electronically to nominate Joe Biden as their nominee. Of course, this move yesterday totally upends that plan. It remains to be seen if the DNC will push forward with a plan for a virtual roll call in early August before the convention. As it moves right now, Harris is the clear front runner for the nomination. And so if she is able to essentially clinch support among delegates from different state delegations across the country, it's possible that she could really clinch the nomination here very soon, and the DNC would move forward with some type of virtual roll call. There are some Democrats in the party who are pushing for an open process. They want this convention to allow for Harris and others to make the case, but all of the really top tier would-be rivals to Harris for the nomination have already signaled that they are not going to challenge her, and many have already come out and backed her nomination.
And talking about that open process, we do want to kind of look forward towards the Democratic National Convention. Do you see any sort of drama there with any people coming up last moment challenging the vice president?
We haven't really seen any clear indication that there will be a formidable challenger to Harris. Of course, California Governor Gavin Newsom is kind of at the top of the list. Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan also at the top of the list. Both have already signaled that they are going to back Harris. They've come out with statements endorsing her. And so I think right now the focus is on who Harris, if she is the presumed Democratic nominee, who she will pick as her VP running mate. And I think think that there's going to be a lot of focus on that going into the convention, because as it stands right now, in the last 48 hours, she has really made some huge strides to actually lock down the support needed for her nomination. She hasn't clinched it yet, but she is well on her way, and we haven't seen any formidable challenger even suggest that they're going to challenge her at this point.
So talk to us about the polling. How does Vice President Harris stack up to former President Donald Trump?
Well, we haven't seen a lot of battleground polling. And so I think there's going to be a lot of focus on how does Trump and Harris, how do they go head to head in places like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, Nevada, places that will really decide the outcome of this election. Now, we do know nationally, Harris and Trump have essentially polled pretty comparable to how Biden and Trump were polling. In hypothetical matchups, Trump had about a 2.5 point lead nationally over President Biden. And he has about a 2 percentage point lead over Harris, so pretty comparable. But of course, national polls don't decide the outcome of elections. States and the state battlegrounds is really where this election will be decided. So I think you're going to see a lot of focus when we see new data coming out in the coming days and weeks for places like Michigan and Pennsylvania to see if Harris actually can cut into Trump's support in those places, or if the former president continues to hold a firm grip on this race.
And last question, Jesse, what do you think Harris might bring to the contest that President Biden did not?
Well, obviously, she is more than 2 decades younger than the president. She brings a lot of, energy to this ticket. We've already seen that with just the statements that have come out from Democrats who are rallying around her. There's a lot of enthusiasm surrounding her bid already, and it really is jumpstarting the campaign when it comes to donations. They've already raised more than $50 million in the first hours after she announced that she would be running for the nomination after Biden stepped aside. And for the Democratic side, that is huge, because we understand that donations after that June debate have really slowed down, and it has allowed the Trump campaign to have a lead in the money race. And we all know that going into the November election, money makes a big difference when it comes to being able to have a robust get out the vote operations in different states when it comes to running ads and covering the airwaves. And so I think you're seeing a lot of enthusiasm surrounding her. And we'll see exactly in her upcoming public appearances, some of that enthusiasm, I think, on the campaign trail.
Lots to cover in the coming days. Jesse Byrnes, we know you all at The Hill will be covering it closely. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.